Hello, folks. This review includes spoilers for the whole season. Doctor Who Season 1 is, in my opinion, the best season of the show in years. Episodes 3 to 7 are possibly the most consistent run of great episodes since the 2005 revival, with the lesser but by no means horrible offerings consigned to the beginning and very end of the season. Before the season started, producer Russell T. Davies warned that the second episode would be heavy on fantasy, but that those who preferred straight-up sci-fi would enjoy the third, emphasizing the P.T. Barnum trick the show does by having so many genres to draw from. He did not warn that the first episode would contain an excess amount of fart jokes and terrifying baby faces, but maybe I should have expected it. To be honest, Space Babies is mostly gone now. Its frivolities pushed out of my mind by other stuff. But I do remember Nchuti and Molly being very likable. Also, the sound of crying. The Devil's Chord was, as expected, a fantasy. Almost a cartoon, in fact. The bright colors and 60s styling made for a luscious watch, and the scene in which the Doctor creates a bubble of silence to negate the maestro's power is fantastically tense and well done. It's probably more enjoyable if you know and like the Beatles, and I imagine some overseas fans may have been nonplussed by the appearance of Cilla Black, but it's great Saturday morning stuff with the Doc fighting the kind of camp and cocky supervillain which has formed the foundation of Western civilization. Cobra Commander would be proud. Boom! And after a Pyramids of Mars reference in the last episode, this one references the few minutes in Genesis of the Daleks when Tom Baker was stood on a similar device, accompanied only by delectable 70s Who heartthrob Harry Sullivan. Best companion ever, by the way. This episode sees the much-discussed return of Stephen Moffat. If the former showrunner wished to answer his critics with this script, he's accomplished his mission, but I doubt that. It's just the kind of great one-off story a talented writer tosses into a season, with the only hangover from the old days being the presence of the Anglican Marines. Once again, they are used to critique religious dogma, but get a little pat on the head at the end for being such good sports. I'd rather not talk too much about 73 yards. It's like an optical puzzle, and looking at it too much may break a cleverly balanced illusion. Needless to say, I am a fan of ambiguity, especially in horror, where knowledge of a threat famously diminishes its effectiveness. I think that's why the radar things in Aliens only work horizontally. Here it works brilliantly, with Ruby thrown into a horrific situation, made all the worse by its lack of simple explanation. And we're stuck with her for the whole thing with no doctor for badly needed hugs. An episode this dark in theme and murky in mystery is a big risk in today's very careful mainstream television, and I admire RTD for taking it. And he takes another big risk in the next episode. A whole city of annoying, entitled risks, in fact. Calling out the mob is one thing, but having your audience spend the entire episode with a character that turns out to be racist trash is another. It works fantastically with Davis gently nudging us along until we get it. And when the Doctor catches on too, it results in one of the best scenes in the entire series. Unbelievably, this was Nchuti's first scene. Davis must have had him made to order for the role. Although the plot of Rogue is rather light, it's a subtly important episode for reasons I'll elaborate upon later. I've never seen Bridgerton, but I understand it seems to depict the British ruling class as a gaggle of diverse funsters partying away in their lovely houses and enjoying romantic trysts while starving children clean their chimneys. Not my kind of thing, to be quite honest. Still, it looks lovely, and there's great costumes in the costume drama tradition, and Davis makes me smile by including a moment that seems expressly designed to drive fans who wish to assign a strict canon to the show absolutely insane. The monster makeup is well done, but they're just birds, and it always kind of bugs me when aliens resemble Earth animals. We've had rhino people, cat people, dog people, and now birds. It feels a little lacking in terms of imagining what an alien can be, like all the lumpy head people in Star Trek. It feels like there's a lot of commentary in the writing this season, reacting to news events and current affairs as always, but also especially to other media and the show itself. The beautifully unambiguous gay romance of Rogue really feels like a reaction to the depiction of the romance between the previous Doctor and Yaz, which was criticized for being underdeveloped and timidly ambiguous, a throwback to the old-style depiction of gay relationships where there's always a question mark hanging over the whole thing and nothing to frighten the horses. Equally, the answer to the season-long mystery of Ruby's mother, as Davis himself has explained, is a reaction to the decision by the producers of Star Wars to retcon the revelation of the identity of Rey's parents in The Last Jedi after pressure from odious elements of the fandom, replacing it with a twist which was ridiculous and only served to add another branch to an already overly tangled family tree of characters. These two metatextual points are well made, I think. I, for one, punched the air when the Doctor and Rogue kissed, imagining what 12-year-old closeted me would have made of the whole thing. It's sometimes hard to remember. The world has changed until something supposedly frivolous reminds you. This is why RTD, no matter how many episodes he fills with questionable jokes and references to television shows I don't watch, will always be a hero to me. The idea of Ruby's mother not being a super rare character drop, but in fact, a normal woman caught up in a vast confluence of universal events, like she's buried under the big W in It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, is, I think, a good one. And it's clever. Unfortunately, it comes across as a little muddled in the episode, as does the explanation of how Sutek's gift of death spreads through time from the places the TARDIS has previously visited, spreading in sequence along the ship's personal timeline. It's great timey-wimey stuff, but a little confusing. The show doesn't have a great record with season finales. We've had some brilliant part ones, but the part twos always seem to disappoint, with things wrapped up quickly with magic, unexpected superpowers, and crowds of people jostling to sacrifice themselves nobly in the Doctor's cause. In this case, the finale has great ideas, as I've said, but it's confusing and overly sentimental in a way that I hope has families hugging each other on the sofa, but doesn't do much for a cynical old git like me. Sutek also seems undercooked, but not a lot to say with that unmoving mouth of his. I get what Davis was saying about not wanting a man in a cloak, but it's nice to watch actors play together. There's always a small whiff of embarrassment when actors, especially ones as good as Nchuti, have to do a full-bodied angry rant at essentially nothing. It's like the uneasy feeling of watching a one-man show from backstage. The Doctor's final encounter with Sutek again showcases this iteration's great depth and passion, even if his dispatch of the Titan has a shade of Zack Snyder's Randian neck snapper. In the end, everything is wrapped up. Everyone comes back as they were always going to, and all is right with the world. With the exception of that sinister Mrs. Flood, of course, a walking mystery box whose existence seems overly contrived, but who hopefully contains an interesting answer. There's a lot more I could talk about. The increased production values, the absolute coup of casting a young actor as talented as Gatwa, the weird font choices, and the introduction of a pantheon of diverse, superpowered gods lining up to oppose the Doctor, like the Dungeon of Doom taking on Hulk Hogan. But my main impression of the new season, apart from that it's very good, is that it's the return of a strong, authoritative voice with actual things to say and the power to say them. And even if they're things we all know, Some people need constant reminding. That's one thing that never seems to change, whatever the time. I am not Burt Reynolds.